welcome to Race Industry Now, the weekly webinar series from EPARTRADE, presented to you by ARP, Performance Plus Global Logistics, Feria, Peak, Fifth Third Bank Motorsport, Quarer, and CTEC Manufacturing. I am Francisque Savignan, the founder and CEO of EPARTRADE, the racing industry, every minute, every day. This is episode 535, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to travel to my home country, France, to talk to two wonderful gentlemen on a very high-tech subject with INOCEL Advanced Technology. With me this morning are Judy Kin, the co-founder of EPARTRADE, and a wonderful host, Mr. Brad Gillie. Judy?
Thank you, Francisque, and thank you, everyone, for joining today. As Francisque just said, today's technical webinar is a prime ideal example of the technology that this racing and performance platform holds. So if you have yet to sign in, please do, completely free, and you can reach out to our suppliers. So on to you, Mr. Brad.
Well, thank you very much, Francis, and thank you very much, Judy. And I think if anyone's watched this for any amount of time, you know that I'm a big fan of new technology, especially when it comes to power and however that works out, whether it's internal combustion, whether it's electric. We're going to talk about hydrogen fuel cell today, which I think is going to be a really cool thing. So this is just awesome and set up very well. And it's great to see you both, by the way. I hope things are wonderful where you are.
Absolutely. And so we should be joining anytime by Pierre Lion and Charles Boulanger. And I see they're coming up on screen. So again, our apologies, but the good news is we're going to have a few extra minutes with Pierre and Charles. So good morning, good afternoon, gentlemen. Bonjour. You're on mute.
Thank you, Fran. Is the sound back now?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm glad we have the sound back. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Judy, and thank you, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about this passionate topic of fuel cell and next generation of fuel cell, better suited for high performance application like motorsport. So it's a subject that really passionated us, and we hope today we'll be able to present a path for a cleaner motorsports that remain also a great spectacle to watch. So then I will cover the tech, and also we'll provide some very advanced comparison with some other power sources. So yeah, we have a packed agenda to cover before you. So just quick intro of the first two topics will be presented by Pierre, when we'll be able to do some comparison between fuel cell and also more conventional source of energy. And then I will present the other topics. But just before jumping into the deep end of high performance fuel cell and motorsports, wanted to share a brief introduction of INOCEL and its advanced technology arm. So Pierre and I run the entity on the right called INOCEL Advanced Technology. We're very much at the tip of the arrow to spearhead any new activity around mobility and new source of high performance system, where we are owned by a company called INOCEL, who is a designer and a manufacturer of power solutions for power generation around fuel cell. So designing fuel cell stack, the balance of plant around the fuel cell, as well as providing genset, so complete power generation to the market. So our team on the right is very much focused on high performance. So we provide low volume system to the race team, to OEMs for proof of concept for low volume series, as well as very specific vehicle. So to do that, we do a lot of integration work, a lot of system definitions. We have a team doing controls and system development. And of course, we can do a custom stack, so fuel cell stack and balance of plant. So the markets we cover are numerous and very varied. So from powering festivals and a data center, as well as providing a very comprehensive solution for off-grid EV charging. So when you don't have enough electricity from the cable to recharge fast EVs, we provide a 400 kilowatt genset that converts hydrogen into electricity, and then you can fast charge your EV without any power sources. So we deliver those projects from 3 different places. We are today sitting in our Gigafactory in Belfort, so top right of the map of France. We also have the R&D office in Grenoble, near the Alps, where we do all the stack design, but also balance of plant development. And Pierre and I work from the CAN office, where we do all the system integration, high-performance vehicle development, and bespoke system. So our customers are quite varied, from off-highway companies that want to have net zero diggers and tractors to run in places like the city centers, where you don't want to have pollution in the middle of the cities when you have construction work, to very specific vehicle. We'll talk about off-road, but also high performance powerboat. So we currently have a 490 horsepower powerboat using two fuel cell we developed. So quick slide on if you're running events, you don't have any electricity from the cable, we can provide a solution, and that's what it looks like. It's a container, so 40-foot container. You plug hydrogen on one side and you have electricity on the side. So very good to run events in remote places, very good to power reliably a paddock, a new race event, new race series. So this is the core business of INOCEL. But today we're more going to focus on how we use this core technology, so the fuel cell developed by INOCEL, to adapt them into more high performance application in mobility. So motorsports is a prime example for us.
So yeah, I will explain a bit more the technology and try to do as much comparison with thermal engine, because I think it will, let's say, remind a lot of memories for a lot of us. We are really at the early stage of the development of the fuel cell as a race tech. So I will start just to compare the different, let's say, level of powertrain that we can have. As Charles mentioned, we are really starting from the stack level, meaning where the electrochemistry is happening, and we are designing and producing in-house the stacks. It can be compared a bit like the engine block and internals of an engine, meaning that the stack design and the cell design is quite like thermal chamber and combustion chamber design. And it's fairly easy to understand. As much gas and as much air you can push into the stack, more power you have, and better the flow is inside of the stack, easily you can make power. The other stage is balance of plants. So it's really just all the auxiliaries that you have around the fuel cell to make it run. So compressors, injectors, water pump. So really the close, let's say, tech around the stack to make it work. So it's kind of a great engine solution. You choose the auxiliaries to supply the stack in hydrogen, air, cooling, and you have an ECU like on a thermal engine to run all the auxiliaries and make sure that you provide the good amount of gas to make the power you want. The main, let's say, focus is really how much power you want to make with that stack. And as long as you have the electric power output from the fuel cell, you can start to design the powertrain itself, mainly adding electrical components, power electronics, inverters, e-motors, can be compared to a gearbox and diff, to what we all understand. The main target is to deliver the fuel cell power to the wheels or the propeller in the most efficient way or effective way, depending on the application. Based on that, let's say, basic comparison, the optimization for the performance is really at initial stage. The key drivers to optimize the performance is the application focus. You need to understand the application to have the good balance between power output, efficiency, and durability. It's a bit the same as a thermal engine. A truck engine is not really a race engine, and it's not a road car engine also. It's quite simple to understand. If you have a good stack, you can flow a lot of flow inside of it. You will have power, but more you push to the limit and more gas you push and more boost you have, you will faster reach the limits. So it's really just the balance between power, efficiency, and lifetime of the system that matter depending on the application. You can clearly have the same strategy as on thermal engine. Either you have a big stack, like big displacement engine. You are not putting a lot of boost into it, and you will still have a lot of power. Or you can have a smaller stack and make a lot of boost, and you still have power. It's just to find the proper application for it. After that, you want to optimize and you want to have the performance. The development is really based on bench time and running the fuel cell on the bench. Try to find the optimal points, develop the software that goes around it. So quite simple on that. But this is really the basic. So where are we right now, and what do we have? The current technology that is fairly used on the road with OEMs like Toyota or Hyundai, it's fairly small units of fuel cell. It's the power density is okay, but we can do better. One key aspect is the response time, meaning that the last generation of fuel cell is not able to flow that much. So it's hard to push hydrogen and gas into it. So it will be really, let's say, slow to respond, around 6 seconds to go from idle to max power. And based on that, you need like battery, electric battery to act as a buffer for the fuel cell. So it means that you have heavy hydrogen tanks to store the hydrogen. You have a fuel cell that is a bit small, and you have a big battery. So meaning a lot of weight, which is not that great. The next gen and the technology that we have right now is totally different. Let's say the smaller unit that we have is 100 kilowatts. The second smallest unit is 250 kilowatts. And we can go way, let's say, as a standard, but we can still push a bit more. I will explain why. So in terms of power density, it's way better than before. And we have the capability to have high flow system, meaning that between idle and max power, it's less than 2 seconds. So in terms of dynamics, it's a game changer. So we switch from that kind of range extender architecture where you have a small fuel cell pushing electricity into battery and you use the battery, to an architecture where the fuel cell is really the prime power sources, and the battery is just a small buffer, or even just used to start and stop the system. But we already kind of see system without battery at all that could go on the market quite fast. So it's really different from the old architecture. I'm talking about standard fuel cell because for the race application, this is just the first step. We are really at the kind of age where we were always 4-cylinder from an OEM and try to change the carburetor on it and make more power from the standard engine. So it's what we are doing right now, but we can clearly see that developing custom stacks and really custom system for race is a possibility. And it will a bit act like having a race engine versus a road engine. So it's totally something that is feasible. It's just now taking a bit of time because it's a lot of hours of development and a lot of money for sure to develop something like that. But the technology is ready to do something a bit crazy, or crazier at least. So this is just a repeat of what I already said, but the main difference is, and this is the key, the technology of the fuel cell with the next gen clearly changed the way you can design the overall architecture of the system. And we make totally different architecture with way less weight than before. So for race application, it's clearly a game changer. Now I will try to understand explain a bit with Charles what are the key advantages and compare it to other let's say, green or greener solution.
So first, we thought it was quite important to define what is a high-performance powertrain. So when you build a race car, when you go into a new racing series, when you want to compete, you want high power. That's the key. That's why fuel cell in the past were really, really lacking. Then you want it to be quite compact and light. So aerodynamic is key for a lot of series now. You want it to be light because we know weight is the enemy of performance. It affects handling quite drastically, and it involves bigger brake and so on. The system becomes very complex. So responsiveness also was lacking from all the net zero powertrain, but battery EVs. So responsiveness was a big issue, the response time for fuel cell in the past. And now with the latest development over the last 3 years, we break this one. So now we have a fuel cell that is very reactive, that we can integrate in a vehicle like an ICE, so like a combustion engine. That's what we meant by easy integration. You want it to have a simple system that provides energy and power that is easy to fit in a car. Having to have a small fuel cell, to have a battery, to have electric motors, to have tanks is cumbersome, where we come as a straight replacement for ICE engine. You will have a fuel cell that provides the power. You will have tanks of hydrogen that provides the energy connected to a motor, and then the wheel. So easy to integrate. So on the same line, control system, we have seen some application where it became so complex to manage different sources of power going into the motor that the control was really, really difficult to set up, and then unreliable, and then difficult to troubleshoot. So you don't want to go racing in a Baja and have an issue where you can't diagnose the problem and being forced to have a DNF. That's not an option. And then a key one that differentiates next generation fuel cell against battery system is you want to be able to sustain high power for a long time and also have a fast refill time. So imagine you have a big electric motor, you have a battery that barely fit into your vehicle, but then you realize you can't really run peak power for a long time. You drain the battery very quickly, and then recharging takes nearly an hour. So it's not really the way you want to go racing, or that's not the way I imagine it. So we saw on a road car application, high performance sports car, hypercar, powered solely by batteries have become a big issue to get customers on to buy them. So they are expensive, they're high performance, not for long, and therefore customers are not interested. Customers still want the noise, still want the thrill, and also the range. And we believe those are the criteria for high performance powertrain that we can provide here. So we think the next generation of net zero powertrain using high performing fuel cell with fast response rate is the way to go.
Just to explain a bit more with data, I will not go into more detail. I will try to explain a bit the data. You will have plenty of time to review that afterward. But one key driver right now when you are just designing a road powertrain is emission and total cost of ownership. It's clearly what drives the market. And because emission, because you have regulation, and TCO, because it's still money at the end of the day. What we can see, trying to compare battery system, fuel cell system, H2 thermal engine and synthetic fuel thermal engine is quite interesting because battery is clearly the best way to have a low TCO as long as you can achieve the application targets. And usually range is clearly an issue. But otherwise, the overall efficiency is great. Battery nowadays are not costing a lot, but if you don't have the range, it's clearly an issue because anyway, the power and the energy stored in the battery are totally linked by design. You can't go above that. It's physics. But you can have a good example. It's almost impossible to beat an electric vehicle at Pikes Peak because you don't need a lot of energy and you can have big power. So for Pikes Peak, no way to go better. But for the Barra, almost impossible with the battery because you need high power with a high range. So if you have an application that can't go with battery, what are the other options? You have fuel cells, H2 ICE, or synthetic fuel. In that case, the power is not a limit. The range is how much tank you can have in your system. The main point is that the total cost of ownership of the system will be higher than the battery anyway. But you will need it at some point. If we go on a focus on the fuel cell H2 ICE and synthetic fuel, ICE and thermal engine version, even if it's synthetic fuel, still have emission by design and lower efficiency. It's not, let's say, a question. It's just physics and chemistry. The fuel cell is relying on chemistry relationship and not burning the gas, so you don't have any emission by design. And this is no debate. And same for the efficiency. The chemical reaction is way better than the combustion itself. So yes, it's not yet fully mature, but the physics and the chemistry is not lying on that. We can still reach a lot more performance on fuel cell than what is already there, compared to thermal engines that are really mature for sure. So we believe that H2 ICE and synthetic thermal engine are really good transmission tech, meaning that it's fairly simple to adopt. It's for the synthetic, it's straightforward. You have almost nothing to do. For the H2 ICE to be different because you still need to have H2 tanks. So it's also a good way to push the infrastructure, push the logistics to have hydrogen on tracks or on the road. But if you, on the long run, and talking with different OEMs, fuel cells seems to be a good solution, because as you are more efficient, you are using less fuel. So on the TCO, it's quite nice. And the price of the fuel cell are decreasing a lot. And it will decrease again and again based on volume, and can be at the same level than thermal engine in the future. So it's efficient, it will cost the same, burning less gas, and having zero emission by just design at the beginning. So seems to be a good way to go. Based on that, motorsport can be a good driver to push the technology, because even in the long run, we want to have, let's say, cool cars on the road and trucks and stuff with a good technology. We need to find a way to develop it and try to push it hard to find the failures and try to find the limits. So it's really a good way to push the tech, and it's at least the way that we like the most. Going on track with system, or going on the water and going fast and see how it works and what we can do. I think we could go even to kind of spirit of race on Sunday and sell on Monday with that kind of technology, because the technology will be really close to the road application anyway, and it's a good marketing point also to see race cars and race boat or whatever going with that kind of technology. So it's the kind of direction that we are taking right now. Now we will just focus on few applications that we developed or we have under development. I will start with a power boat that we developed 2 years ago. So a small boat, 8.5 meter, 500 horsepower, only using fuel cells, small battery. So the kind of architecture that we showed to you. The goal of that project was trying to see, without changing the hull of the boat and without too much trouble, how to replace Mercury V8 6.2 liter with a green tech technology. And fairly, it's working well. We have the same weight ratio and the same weight at the terminal boat, a bit more power, so the dynamic is almost the same. We have 75% of the range of the thermal engine using gas at 700 bar. we already know that using liquid hydrogen instead of gas could bring a lot of, let's say, range and almost exceed the range of the gasoline version. So it's really a nice project that we developed in-house, full integration, fuel cell development, testing. And so it's not, let's say, proven because nobody is taking, let's say, speed record right now on that kind of boat, but we reach almost 60 miles an hour with it. So could be the fastest hydrogen boat in the world running right now with a fairly simple design, and we can still, let's say, burn everything in 1 hour and a half at full speed. Really too long for the driver anyway, and we charge in 10 minutes. So quite cool to use. So if you want to join us in the south of France for testing, we are open to it for sure.
Not everyone at the same time, though.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pierre. So yeah, I will talk about this second application, which is close to my heart. So Barra and Rally. So over the years, we developed a very interesting concept. So the company was initially started by Mike Horn, who wanted to do the Dakar with net zero powertrain. So we contacted the French Atomic Energy Center that designed the core fuel cell that we are now using after further development. So initially, the company was already using a core fuel cell that's designed for motorsports and rally head for the Dakar Rally. But over the years, we also have a team and partners that really develop a very strong expertise in this area. So today we have a very strong focus on this kind of application. Why? First, because we be racing in an area of natural beauty. So you don't really want to come with a joy machine that leaves the place in a worse place that you're fond for, and you go there because it's a natural beauty. You want to enjoy it. You want the others to enjoy it. You want your child to enjoy it. So, but you want also to go racing and have fun. So that's a big driver for us. Going racing, para, rally in a green, sustainable way is what drives us. Then the power, as Pierre mentioned, we have enough power from the system to have a race car that shifts, that cross dunes, that is light enough to do it so in a safe way and fun way. Then the energy with liquid hydrogen, we really believe this architecture will be very competitive over the coming years, not decades, but years. We'll be able to have a powertrain integrated well into a racing chassis like a T1 and go for top positions and finish in good position by racing with sustainable fuel like green hydrogen. So that's really interesting. And the series, the championship organizers are fully behind. So the regulation in Rally Red are kind of facilitating the introduction of those new technology.
Let's say friendly.
So we still have to cope with FIA regulation for liquid hydrogen storage, which is the big area of work now. But for the power delivery, we think we're already there in terms of compactness, power, and energy content. So we're going to reach more than 400 kilowatt peak and enough energy to finish the stage or have a refuel if it's permitted, depending on the series. So we have a complete design with our partner, Sport, who is a very well-known, respected, and successful chassis developer for those events. And we have a complete spec, and we have currently some interest and discussion to bring that into a fully fledged racing vehicle. So now, if you want to get on board and share the vision we have a couple of very interesting delivery model where again we bring something new to the table. So what we decided is it's possible now with the technology we have, with the maturity of the supply chain, the availability of hydrogen that's become more and more widespread, that we can deliver a hydrogen fuel cell balance of plant or system as a crate engine offering. So really, we will be able to provide this system with the integration packs, so it can be integrated in a vehicle with slight modification. So what we call is a gray box approach, where we can move some components, help for the integration, go as far as upgrading the scope to provide H2 storage, helping to spec the powertrain, motors, and transfer box. So that's kind of a crate engine, which is ideal for small series, and it's based on a current off-the-shelf internal. Available is 100 kilowatt, 125 kilowatt, or 200 and 250 kilowatt. So two different, basically size of engine, and two different stage of tune for each. And then if you want to go racing a bit faster, a bit further, if your requirements are a bit more aggressive, if you want to push the boundaries, we offer a kind of race engine development support, where we take the initial design, the core design, the parts produced for mass production, and we optimize every single one of them or some of them to provide more like a race engine kind of offering, where we can change the size of the internal as well as the intake, exhaust, and be able to push the boundaries and provide the net zero powertrain to go racing further and faster. So yeah, that's what I prepared for you guys today. Wanted to finish with a cool picture. That's every year we have an event in Monaco called Monaco Boat Energy Challenge. So that's where the picture was taken last year. We're going to be again there this year if you want to come and join us. And yeah, you have contact details on the screen if you fancy following the discussion with a bit more discussion, chit chat, and talking about your application.
Charles and Pierre, this is just amazing. This is wonderful. And yeah, I think we all want to join you in the south of France for sure, because that sounds like a fun event and a beautiful place to be. You know, it's really fascinating where we are right now in our world of technology. And quite honestly, a lot of the things that are coming out, you know, are both advancements and kind of solutions to things that we have issues with. You take just a gasoline internal combustion engine, and well, people say we're going to have limited natural resources and there are emissions problems and things like that. But then you take just the straight up EV side of things, and then people look at those. You know, first of all, you have to go, you know, mine and refine, you know, the elements that go into making the batteries. We talk about limited range and things like that. And I love that you had the comparison as well between a hydrogen internal combustion engine and then the hydrogen fuel cell technology, because it almost seems like issues on both sides of the fence. If we just went from this side of EV to this side of gasoline internal combustion engines, that problems over here and problems over here are solved with the hydrogen fuel cell technology. Is that fair to say? And in such an infancy of the technology as well.
Yeah, we truly believe so. So you make a good point about batteries. You need to dig the earth to extract raw material to put into battery that doesn't last forever. And all of that as a carbon footprint cost. Those are energy costs that is not even enough talked about if you add the transport as well. So this needs to be factoring. And yeah, you can produce hydrogen without taking too much carbon. You can put that into vehicle and have high performance. And the point we didn't discuss much is the efficiency. A fuel cell is a lot more efficient. So from a kilogram of hydrogen, you will have more horsepower from a fuel cell than any other engine or ICE engine equivalent or H2 engine. So that's what we believe in.
Yeah. And I think what was lacking on the fuel cell approach was kind of performance design and performance approach for it. Because as it is a kind of new tech for vehicles, nobody took the time to see how much power you can have for a fuel cell that is only running for 1,000 hours instead of 20,000 hours for a truck. And you can find a lot of interesting stuff doing that. Changing injector, changing compressor, making more boost, and still having performance. So it's, for now, I think our basic level is more like engine tuner in the 60s. But we are capable of growing fast, and the goal is really to be like an engine developer or fuel cell developer of the future. Meaning that we can develop from scratch fuel cells that are really tailored for high power output and reach some good level of performance with it. And that was clearly not the strategy for the technology at the beginning. So we are sure that we are bringing something a bit new on the table. it's something that you can see on the current, let's say, race car that are running fuel cell. They are just using standard fuel cell, not performance fuel cell. So this is something different.
Yeah, it's really neat. By the way, I want to encourage anyone, if you're watching right now live, if you have a question for Pierre or Charles, you can ask it in the chat. Just type it in. We'd be happy to answer that for you. One curiosity that I have, and one thing that I find interesting, a lot of times when we're looking at changing technologies, people don't want to go backwards, meaning they don't want to go backwards in power. They don't want to go backwards in cost. Although I think some people are a little more open to that if it's something for the future. But in some of the places where you were doing the comparisons, I wonder, so how much of any downside, if there is one by comparison to something else with the hydrogen fuel cell, will quickly be corrected as technology advances? You know, so if we're either on an even plane with something or a little bit above it, or even a little bit, you know, on this side of it, like you said, this is what we're in the second generation of this, where a lot of the comparisons are things that have reached their maturity of development. How much of that will be corrected with technology?
I think a lot, because having to develop a performance fuel cell without knowing well the technology enough to do so, it's a lot of testing, it's a lot of hours. So I think the key point on the current generation is the maturity level. We are still learning a lot. I'm sure that we will burn fuel cell at some point, but it will be great to do it. It's, yeah, how much time you can keep up the power, how much it will last. It's fairly time that is missing right now, and bench time and usable time, and put the fuel cell into the dust, in the water, and it will, let's say, really help the technology forward. As mentioned, as far we can push, it will also bring the innovation into the road at the end, and bring some nice application for the road standard users.
There's a lot of people saying, oh, they are fragile or this and that, but all of it can be worked on with development. Like the normal traditional engine we know of had hundreds of years of development. It didn't happen overnight. And some people are expecting that from a fuel cell, that overnight it would be perfect. But it's a more effective way to use energy on a vehicle. All the OEMs know that lower vehicle, lower duty cycle, you stick to batteries, but higher power rating and range, that's the best, most efficient solution. So with a bit of development like what we're doing, getting onto niches and some very challenging application will quickly speed up the development using motorsports, and then be able to propose a mature product for mainstream, which be like off-highway, so trucks and digger, buses, coaches, but also HGV trucks. So that's the roadmap. And yes, development using motorsports will speed that up. And we're really keen to spearhead that with the team.
Yeah, I did love the win on Sunday, sell on Monday reference that you mentioned earlier. But it's true. I mean, if you're going to introduce this to people, and if we're going to continue to develop something, the possibilities right now where we sit for the future are truly endless. But being involved in motorsports, and then on several different levels too. I know we talked a lot about boats. We talked about the Baja, the off-road racing and everything. But also just talking about having the power cells, there to power the paddock or to be able to do different things like that. I mean, this is technology that can be introduced on so many different levels of just what we do within motorsports to help introduce it then to our mainstream. Is that fair?
Yeah, we have a lot of discussion with different people. And when you go racing, people are interested to power the vehicle as well as powering the paddock. That's unique. And then on the other side, we have OEMs, for example, in Germany, OEMs are saying this technology, this application, this level of efficiency, the roadmap is the next bigger thing we've seen for years, to take the technology, develop it on a track and put it on a car or on a truck. That's the bigger things motorsports have seen for decades, according to OEMs. So there's really a nice runway for us.
Yeah, and based on current development and simulations and testing, one key aspect is that we don't want to race against green vehicle. We want to win against thermal vehicles. And this is totally a different approach. I don't care that much winning the Dakar between a forklift with an electric battery. I want to win against the thermal engine, because the technology is capable of doing that. And this is a totally different approach, because one key aspect with the battery development is that at the end of the day, you are lacking something. you are lacking the range or the sound or whatever. With the fuel cell, it's a bit different because we have everything that is telling us that we can beat the thermal engine. And it's not different approach. You are not lacking of anything.
And we're also leveraging all the development made recently on power electronics. So all the electric motors, the inverters that have made great headway in terms of, again, density of power. This development is not wasted because our fuel cell uses hydrogen to create electricity, and then electricity is feeding an electric engine, which is very efficient and has been developed very aggressively over the last 10 years. And there's some crazy numbers out there for high performance motors and drive, so EDUs.
Yeah, and again, I think what you said is just key. You want to win over, and you're not going after just electric. You want to win over the thermal engines and everything, which this brings a great question as well. And just for clarification, Frank Harold said, does your fuel cell powertrain employ the fuel cell to generate electricity to power an electric motor, which in turn then drives the vehicle? Like it, what's
it's the basic definition of the fuel cell. It's an electrical, it's a chemical reaction. So we are putting hydrogen, air into it, and we are exhausting electricity and water, mainly vapor water. So yes, after that, you have the electricity that you need to power electric motors and do all the fencing stuff that you can do with electric motors nowadays. Torque vectoring, four-wheel drive, really high launch. On the boat, we have a launch control. You can ramp up the fuel cell, press a button, and you are ready to go at 100. It's fairly nice to have. So a lot of control can be done on that when you have enough electric power to do so.
Like you said earlier, bring the best of both worlds. ICE engine as we know it, integration, noise, joy, as well as efficiency and low emission of what we call it batteries powered vehicle before.
Yeah, this is one thing that I really love about what you're talking about with the technology, because again, it solves problems on both sides that really can have both sides happy. If we're a longtime motorsports fan and we want to hear the roar of something, that's great. If we care about the environment and we don't want to have a lot of our natural resources being used up and/or emissions and everything, again, problem is solved here. What kind of time frame? If we're sitting here today in March of 2025, when we get to 2030, if you had a vision right now for where this could be, what do you see?
You were in the office this morning or what? We had the same discussion this morning. We laid up for a Baja type application and Halide. So do you want to tell the good news, Pierre?
Yeah, I think winning the Baja or winning the Dakar Rally is achievable in 28. So could be a 4 to 3 year program to do so, but all the technology bricks are there, maturing for sure, but almost ready already. All the numbers are pretty well aligned on that. Totally achievable. It's just next door.
There's a lot of hard work and the right partners on board for different subsystems, but we have that all aligned. And the core technology is making really good progress on the dyno. So 28, guys, stay tuned.
Wow. All right. So curious for both boats and Dakar, and I know there's a passion for that as well. But how much of this is just born out of this is what you love? How much of this is born out of if we're going to prove this technology? I don't know that there is another event in this world like Dakar that you can say this is about to put something to literally the ultimate test.
Dakar is well aligned for the market as well. Like it will go first on heavy duty, heavy mobility, like buses and trucks, and like imagine your big lorry for waste collection in the city. Those heavy energy usage with steel power requirement. This is very much aligned with the likes of Dakar, and also you have the same harsh environment like you would have in a digger, in a quarry. So yeah, that's a very good excuse for us to go and have fun and go racing.
Which I like. This is really fascinating. Just the way everything is going and literally everything you just explained. And what I enjoyed about the presentation, number one, is as you're going, it answers a lot of questions of, okay, what is this? What is the difference between, this and then having the hydrogen internal combustion engine and the fuel cell and all of that? And then where we go. I mean, this could be its standalone system. I mean, could this also be a hybrid system if we wanted storage or different things like that? Or is storage of the power even a question at this point? Meaning, if you're making more power than you're using, is there a need to store it, or is that just part of that efficiency percentage?
No, because the fuel cell is really dynamic. So it's running as a thermal engine. If you don't need power, just don't press the throttle. It's something that you can hear on the system. For example, on the boat, when you are pushing the throttle, you can hear the fuel cell ramp up. It's making a bit of noise that we need to manage with the silencer currently. It sounds like a bit of jet engine ramping up because you have the sound of the compressor and the air. We are pushing something like 2 to 3 bar of air into the system. So you can clearly hear the air going out of the fuel cell. So no, it's fairly running like a thermal engine. Press the throttle and you have a load between 0 and 100%. So the goal is not to store the energy on the battery because the battery has also its own efficiency and its own weight that we don't want. So the goal is clearly to be dynamic enough on the fuel cell to don't rely at all on the battery.
Mm-hmm. Question from the chat, and this is something that gets talked about when we talk about safety in motorsports, especially with EV racing. If we have a full cell of batteries under the car or under the trunk or whatever, if there's a fire, you just can't stop it. So the question is, we know it's impossible to stop an EV battery on fire in racing. What about the hydrogen fuel cells?
Depends on where the fire is. We don't want the battery because we can't stop it to burn. So if we don't have a big battery, it's already something gone. If we have a problem on the fuel cell itself, just close the gas and it will stop. Meaning that as you are closing the gasoline or whatever, if it's a hydrogen issue, there is a lot of, let's say, safety around that, leak sensor, a lot of way to detect it to stop the system and stop the leak and close the tanks. If you have an overall fire, that can happen due to electrical issues, for example, it happens. There is a lot of safety on the tanks themselves, meaning that if the temp is too high, the tanks will discharge in a chosen location and end of the story. We have good example of, let's say, for example, in the city in France, they burn like 10 buses full of hydrogen. The fire starts from the HV battery that was charging at the time, not the hydrogen. The tanks discharge themselves and end of the story.
Yeah, basically there's a pressure valve. So when there's a fire, then the pressure increases because the heat increases, and then it triggers the pressure release valve, and all the hydrogen is vented in a specific location far away from the fireman.
You just don't want to be at that location because you just fire it on top and you have a flame like 10 to 15 meter long burning that you can't see. So you just choose the location to do it.
So it's a hot flame, but it's very short amount of time. And it's an area you define where a battery fire creates its own oxygen to entertain the combustion. So you can't stop a battery fire because it creates both carburant and combustion. So it's very different.
So safety is something that we can manage.
Yeah, it sounds like a solution's already there with simple technology that we've had for years. So, and evacuating it just puts it right back in the environment, right? So it's not like we're putting something harmful back into the environment. So
no, you would just create more water.
Gentlemen, this is Pierre, Charles. This is really fascinating and an amazing presentation that you two put together, and really looking forward to seeing what happens in 2028 now in Denmark.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you guys, and have a good day now.
Well, thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you for joining us today. This webinar has been recorded. It will be posted later on the EPARTRADE platform, distributed through our newsletter and social media channel. Please don't forget to check out INOCEL's product. We push them back on the EPARTRADE platform. Next webinar will be with Brooker, and we'll be talking 3D printing and scanners, and a great webinar ahead of us. So again, thank you very much for joining us. For more information and update, visit epartrade.com. Thank you and goodbye.
EPARTRADE is a digital platform that we've created basically to make life easier in the business community of auto racing.
EPARTRADE, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier.
When you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, and then from there it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
EPARTRADE really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
Land speed record holder George Poteet's Speed Demon rocketed 481 miles per hour at the Bonneville Salt Flats. You don't go that fast without ARP fasteners.
There is no way that we could go the speed that we've gone, the number of times we've gone, with a lesser quality bolt than ARP supplies to us. And we absolutely wouldn't be where we were today if it weren't for ARP.
When failure is not an option, it's ARP-bolts.com.
We're Performance Plus Global Logistics. Our team of dedicated performance industry and logistics experts get valuable cars and components to the track on time in top condition. We provide expedited logistics solutions for the performance industry using direct routes instead of deferred options, and communicate all necessary information to the appropriate resources to meet regulations and ensure a smooth transit and secure delivery, both domestically and internationally. And we exceed customer expectations by providing best-in-class service with an efficient and cost-effective system in place. Contact us today to book your next shipment.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
With roots in the Midwest that date back well before the Model T, Fifth Third Bank has a long history of serving the needs of automotive companies. While much has changed over the years, our passion for helping businesses put cars on the road and on the track has not. Today, we are more committed than ever as a member of SEMA, a founding member of PRI, and a sponsor of multiple race teams across several racing series. Where can we take your business? Fifth Third Bank.
Where will you find Farea racing components, circle track, drag racing, and any top race shop? In every form of motorsports competition, our valves and valve train components deliver race-proven design and technology. And we've brought that same performance to our street applications as well. We're backed by 5 decades of experience, an extensive range of off-the-shelf components, and our custom valve department has the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Farea Racing Components. Stand with us or race against us.
When it comes to pushing the limits of performance, the pros know there's no room for compromise. At Crowder Cams, we don't just engineer camshafts and valve train components, we redefine what power means. Since 1955, Crowder Cams has been the name trusted by racers, engine builders, and gearheads around the globe. Whether you're building a street machine, a dragster, or a track car, Crowder Cams provides the muscle you need to dominate. And with Crowder, victory is within your reach.
At SeaTech, we're on a mission to lead the storage industry through innovative custom-built solutions that meet every challenge head-on. Designed for versatility, whether in a commercial setting or at home, we create high-quality, durable products that stand the test of time. SeaTech, engineering and innovation.